Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. This is A.live Podcast Season 2, Episode 8, and I've got the one and only Miss Emilee B on the line with me. So thanks for tuning in. How you doing, Emilee?
I'm doing good. How are you, Aaron?
I'm doing real well. It's a blessing to have you on here today. How's the quarantine life treating you?
It's good now. At first, it was kind of crazy. And by the way, 8 is my lucky number, so that makes me really happy that this is episode number 8. I did not know that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But yeah, quarantine life is good. It wasn't at first. I had a lot of anxiety about what was going on.
Sure, I think a lot of people did.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't ever get anxiety. It was to the point where, like, I was just sick to my stomach kind of thing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think we're over the hump now because at first it was like, a lot of anxiety. People were scared. People didn't know. Some people were scared of the virus. Some people were just scared of all the change that's going on in society. I know for me, I was scared of both. And I still have a level of fear, but a lot of that has subsided. What's it been like for you?
Well, I mean, like I said, at first I was like sick to my stomach. I felt like the world was ending. I have to say, I felt like zombies were coming and it was going to be an apocalypse. I mean, that was just like the kind of extreme that I went to in my head. And then I think what really got me a lot of anxiety is when I started going to the grocery store trying to get things and they just weren't available. Like I went to get milk for my son and I had to go to 3 different stores to get it. And I was like, oh my God. And then after that, it kind of started to calm down. I mean, I think that I've gotten used to the new normal. So now it's the new normal. And
it is. And it's a weird normal though, I gotta say,
It's like the Twilight Zone when I go to the store. I stood there last weekend and I was looking around and I'm like, we're all wearing masks at the store. It's just like the Twilight Zone.
It's super bizarre, but it is. You're right. It's the new normal. Here we are doing a podcast remotely. Usually, as you know, I have the guest in the room with me. But I'm fortunate enough to have this outlet as another tool to use for my recovery. And so if I can help other people along the way while doing something that I enjoy doing, which is just simply connecting with people that I know in recovery, like we're doing right now, if it helps somebody else, then all the better. So if you're tuning in, we want to thank you today. And yeah, we're just excited. We're excited to do something productive and proactive for our recovery, especially in the quarantine. I know, I called you at 8 o'clock to get everything set up, and you said, this was something that you could get dressed up for finally. It's like, here we are, I even threw a collared shirt on, had my girlfriend help pick it out for me.
That's hilarious.
So here we are. Yeah. But yeah, I want to talk about recovery. Let's get right into it now that we wiped all the quarantine stuff out of the way. I met you probably 4 or 5 years ago. I was introduced by mutual friends in recovery, and I didn't know much about you. All I knew is you had probably about, I don't know, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 5 years clean. How long do you have clean now?
I have 9 years clean, which is crazy to say that.
Okay.
I would say I probably had 4 or 5 years clean, I think. I remember you from when I used to go to a Friday night meeting that was up in Shrewsbury. Do you remember that? It was a 9 o'clock Friday meeting, and they don't have it anymore.
9 o'clock Friday? I think I was only at that meeting one time. And then, as you know, that same meeting spot became my home group on Monday nights. So I think I was only at that Friday night meeting one time. So. Yeah,
I remember you from that meeting, and I definitely remember you from the Monday night meeting because, of course, it was your home group.
Of course, and I think that's where we were introduced, But yeah, it's been a while since I've been up at that home group. Have you been there recently?
So I haven't. I tuned in for someone's anniversary since meetings are via Zoom right now.
Yeah.
But before that, yeah. I mean, I do. I go there every once in a while. I actually love that Monday night meeting. I love the love that I get when I go there. I love that people are excited to see me, and I love the recovery that's there.
Absolutely.
I love to hear all the predecessors share, everybody's just really genuine there. So you picked a good home group.
It was definitely jump-started my experience and introduced me to recovery. because up until that point, I was in another fellowship than I am now. And I had a weird, bad experience with a former sponsor, and that turned into like me not wanting to even do meetings, So then I met our mutual friends, and he was like, come and check this meeting out in Shrewsbury, Pennsylvania on a Friday night. He's like, I'll meet you there. And that's really, that introduction to the fellowship that we're in now was really what jump started me into this process, even though it took me 2 years at least from that point to get the clean time I have now. And I'm looking at this wall of key tags I have hanging that you can't see behind the camera, but it's like, it just shows my journey, and it certainly took me a long way to get here. But it's not about me today, it's about the newcomer. And I really want to just jump right into your story as much as you want to share of that. Tell us how you got into recovery and what your journey has been like since then.
Oh my God. I mean, God. So I just knew that I had, I thought, well, what the hell happened to me? Like, how did I end up like this? This is just how I'm going to be forever. So it was kind of a lot of hopelessness, doom and gloom in my mind. Like, oh my God, I was supposed to be like a nurse or something, or at that time, like, that's what I thought. And I'm just like, doing drugs all the time, staying up all night, finding ways and means to get more kind of thing. And I didn't actually know all that vocabulary that I just said until I got into recovery. So I remember that my brother got pulled over for DUI when I was younger, and he had to go to like these classes. And so in my mind, that was the first time that I had heard about a 12-step fellowship, but I thought it literally was just a class that you go to where they like write on a chalkboard and they teach you something, and then like you're fixed and you leave kind of thing.
You had a rude awakening then, huh?
And then I just like, seriously, I still didn't understand it. I was just really desperate, and I had hit a physical bottom, the first time, and I hit a spiritual bottom the second time, and I wanted to commit suicide. And, at that point, I had been introduced to the 12-step fellowship that I'm in through a treatment center that I went to. And when I went there, they kind of told me, go to meetings, get a sponsor, write on step work, don't pick up, pray, and I heard go to meetings. And so that's what I did. And so, that second time that I hit a spiritual bottom, I wanted to kill myself. It was cool because there was hope there, because I had been to 12-step meetings and to the fellowship that I'm in now. And it was like like for the newcomer, like just keep coming back, right? Like I remember when you were coming in and out for 2 years, and everybody would just cheer you on every single time you walked through the door. And
yeah.
I had that same kind of love.
I mean, I just got chills when you said that, because I can remember how it made me feel when I would come back after a relapse and they would just welcome me back with open arms. And like that love comes from like a place of empathy, because they know, because they've been there, they've been through it, they know what it's like. And so, I mean, I think it's important that you talk about that, because somebody may be listening sometime to this episode, and they, they're at this bottom and they don't know how to get out, and like they hear us talking about the rooms and this and that, but until they understand that, the love that we experience in the 12-step fellowships, and until they have that experience for themselves, they're not, for me, I should say,
Yeah.
I wasn't ready. And like, because they kept loving me back to a place where I could be receptive and to open up to the idea, so
it's that love. It's like the hugs and stuff that kind of soften your heart, and the people that would ask me how it was. And so when I was out there using and I hit that spiritual bottom, I was like, wait, it doesn't have to be this way, but I can't stop using, but it doesn't have to be this way. And I knew where to go. You know, I think that's the most beautiful part. Like, Relapse is a part of my story. Like, I knew who I could call,
Mm-hmm.
and they would be like, and I had people calling me, you know, where are you? Where have you been? And that freaked me out. You know, I'm like, I'm trying to get high. Stop calling me. But
Yeah, I
then
know
when I
that
was
feeling.
done, I'm like, please, I want to come. I want to be there. You
Right.
know.
You know, when the drugs ran out or the money or whatever it took to get the next one in us. Um, yeah, you mentioned something that I wanted to touch on, but I forgot about it. It might come back to
You'll
me.
remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it may come back to me. That's okay. But yeah, continue on. I mean, you talked about a lot about like the way that you felt and these people, and you knew where to go. So important.
I I did, and I remember, I think that I got like a month clean, and I got a sponsor, and so there was this amazing woman who, when I went to my very first meeting, all these women kind of gave me this little booklet, and they put their phone numbers in it, and I, you know, the next day didn't, I wanted to use, but I didn't want to use, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I better call like some women out of this book that they gave me, and so I did. I think I called about 5 women, and I left messages, and one of those women called me back, you know, and that's all it took. It just took that one person to call me back, and she was just really a godsend in my life. And we talked on the phone for like 45 minutes, and I felt like I was back in high school, even though it was fast forward 5 years that I had been using. I felt like I was back in high school, and I was talking to a friend on the phone. Like, it was just really easy, and it flowed. And she, you know, she asked me to come over to her house and go to a meeting with her. And I was like, you want me to come over to your house? Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell this story. So I got to her house. My dad took me over there. And I pull up, and she has a house, and she has a husband. She just got home from work, so she's in like these business casual clothes. She has kids. She, you know, has, I don't know if I said car, she has furniture. Like, she has all this stuff. And this is all stuff that I didn't have and that I lost, you know, in active addiction. And so I was like standing there thinking to myself, as soon as I walked in the door and realized she has all this stuff, like, this woman has no idea what I've been through. Like, she can't possibly know. Look at her. She's in this great space, right?
Common misconception that a newcomer has, you know. I can't get there. I can't get to that level of success. I couldn't possibly experience what they have, you know.
Right.
So.
And that's exactly what I did. I mean, comparing people's outsides to my insides was an asset of mine when I walked in the doors. And the disease wants me, you know, to think like that. And I still do that today. But, you know, God's bigger. And so he just like knew what I was thinking. And she started talking to me and said, do you want to see my using picture? And I was like, I guess. I mean, you know. And so she pulled out this picture of herself from rehab, you know, 4 or 5 years earlier. And she was like 80 pounds, soaking wet, with her eyes rolling back in her head. And she just looked like an alien. I mean, really, you know. And I thought to myself, like, wow, like she knows. And so, I mean, those are the little things that kept happening for me when I first started coming around, to kind of let me know that I was in the right place. Like, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. But the disease was still strong, you know.
Absolutely.
The disease was like, you don't belong here. These people aren't your friends. This is weird.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
that's what it'll tell us for sure. For sure.
Oh yeah, every single time.
Even, and I'll even say this, even with some clean time, you know, the disease will try to infiltrate our minds and tell us we're not worthy, or this would be easier if we just go use or do other things to get outside of ourselves, you know, which,
yeah.
And we were talking about it before the podcast, before we went live, is like, you know, we both stopped nicotine products. We were both smokers, and we don't do that any longer. And that's one of those things, just like drugs, that took us outside of ourselves. And we can both proudly say we don't have to put any nicotine in our system today, you know, and that's such a huge relief, such a huge relief.
Oh yeah, it's a big relief for me too. I mean, I was crazy. At the time I needed to smoke, you know, like people, I knew some people, I've seen people before who like try to get clean and quit smoking at the same time. Right. And I'm like, oh my God, that's not my experience. Like you're crazy, you know?
Yeah. That's
like,
wild.
give me a pack of cigarettes to smoke at least if you're not gonna, you know, if I'm not gonna use today. And then as the years went on, you know, I was like somebody who would work out and smoke cigarette before and after I worked out. And so, and funny story about, I know, funny story about quitting smoking. So I actually quit smoking because this guy that I was with broke up with me and he didn't like that I smoked. So I quit smoking so that he would get back together with me, and it worked.
And you stopped ever since then?
And then he broke up with me a month later, and I was like, I can't smoke now. I got to show him, you know.
Sure. Of course. Of course.
Whatever gets you there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess, yeah. So while we're on that topic, like, what are some of the other successes or great accomplishments that you have experienced in recovery? Smoking being something relatively small, and if you compare to things like having a child, or what are some other examples you can think of that you have experienced in recovery?
I mean, I've experienced a lot of successes in recovery. I think the first ones that I experienced, you know, were just as little as like staying clean, and that's a small success every single day that I do that. I think that I was looking for outside things to kind of reflect that I was successful. And so I learned through working through the steps at first that kind of like the inside stuff was where I had to start. And so when I really just started to like myself and feel like a little bit more comfortable in my skin, that was really like my big first success. When I got my first job at the American Red Cross, and I was working like a 9-to-5 job when I had been like a server, bartender, and, you know, worked down the block before that. That was a really big success for me. And that job only, you know, paid me like $450 every 2 weeks, and I lived off of that. I mean, I just like went to meetings, bought cigarettes, put gas in my ar, and
that's all you needed at that time.
That's all I needed.
Right? Because obviously God had put that salary in your life so you could focus on what really mattered, you know?
Yeah.
Like that inside job. You talked about comparing other people's outside stuff with the way you felt inside. So I want to come back to that, is like, you know, you said how comfortable in your own skin is when you finally got to that point and like you started getting comfortable in your own skin. But the question I have for my own interest is like, I mean, you have a significant amount of more clean time than I do. So, are there still times, and I assume so, with life, you know, changing and throwing different things as we grow and we evolve and we progress in our recovery, there's still got to be times where you're uncomfortable, even with 9 years clean?
Sure. Absolutely. You know, I find that every time that I got comfortable in my own skin, it was the comfortable in my own skin at that moment. Like I was happy with that. But like as time goes on, I just get more and more and more comfortable and okay with myself, the decisions I'm making, the morals and values I'm living by kind of thing, spiritual principles, like when I'm doing all that kind of stuff, I'm really comfortable in my own skin. But it's a process. It's that onion that you peel back the layers. And I've kind of figured out who I really am over the years, and who I want to be. And that really helps me feel more comfortable in my own skin. But like right now, I started a new job. I work at county government.
Well, that's huge.
I know. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm really,
congratulations.
Thank you. I got hired in the middle of a pandemic, and they let me start teleworking at home. So I just am like
Holy
so
cow.
blessed. I
So
know.
like are you still training? Like what's that like? Starting a new job in the middle of a pandemic. Have you gone into the office at all? Like what's going on?
I
What's that
mean,
like?
I know. So only a couple of times. So that's, I
Okay.
mean, it's like something new, so it's uncomfortable. So I
Sure.
mean, in my experience, give me like a year or two, I'll start to feel comfortable in my own skin at my job, but I get nervous at first, but it's interesting. I've been looking for a job, for like a 9 to 5 job with benefits. It's a really good job for, I don't know, a year. And I kept going on all these interviews, and I wasn't getting hired, and I was frustrated because I have a degree and I have all these years of experience in the field that I'm in. And then I get hired in the middle of a pandemic. I'm like, okay,
And
God.
I want to touch on that real quick because that's amazing. How many people, the unemployment rate is sky high right now, and you land a job in the middle of a pandemic. Like,
I mean, it's just
awesome for
ironic.
you.
I
Awesome for
know.
you.
I couldn't do it before the pandemic. The pandemic hits, and I actually get hired a job, and I'm just like, this is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, that's
I
kind of bizarre.
yeah, it is bizarre. And I do lashes on the side, so I had some sort of income, and I had to collect unemployment for a little bit, but I am really grateful. So, I mean, it's been interesting. I'm virtually starting a job. So, like the same way that you and I are talking, through video.
Sure.
I do video chats all day with my team.
Really? That's
and
cool.
That's how I've been able to get acclimated with the team that I work with at work. But it is weird. I mean, like, sometimes I'm like, do they know? Like, they let me start working from home, Like,
yeah. Yeah, that's when you really gotta like have I don't know, like rock solid spiritual principles to do the next right thing when no one's looking.
yes.
It is what it is. I mean, this pandemic, I'm anxious to see. And it's kind of sad to think, but I'm anxious to see how many people are actually going to come back to meetings. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of new faces, which is good. I mean, this disease is alive and well. It doesn't care about a pandemic, right?
No.
And so there's going to be newcomers. There's going to be people that drop out of this recovery thing, I think. I mean, I've been faced with hard times in this pandemic too, just like everyone else, where I just want to like throw in the towel. That doesn't mean that I necessarily am going to use, but like I just want to like give up on everything I've been building in recovery. And that in itself is like giving up on recovery,
Yeah.
But sometimes, I mean, like we were talking about it before going live too, is like how do newcomers do this right now?
I know, it's really hard. I'm grateful for Zoom meetings. I've been getting to like 5 or 6 meetings a week. I haven't done that since the first 3 years of my recovery. I usually go to 2 a week. So I've been really grateful for it. I don't think that I really realized how much I missed like hugs and stuff until I bought this sign from one of my friends. It says, "Stay the F home. It's amazing." So she dropped it off to me when this all first happened, and we hugged, and she's in the program, and I just didn't really realize how much I was missing that.
I'm sure.
So I feel bad for newcomers. Newcomers who are dialing into Zoom meetings, staying clean, calling their sponsors, working on stuff. I mean, like,
I wouldn't go as far as to say that I feel bad for them. I mean, you got to remember they're coming into recovery. It's better than what they were living. So, but they just have a different concept of what it is now because they don't, especially if they're new and they're not coming back off of a relapse. Like this is their first go round. Hopefully their last go round. Hopefully they stick and stay, and don't go anywhere. But this is what they know. And maybe when we get back to meetings, that concept of like hugging each other and like being around people is going to be foreign. Like maybe this is comfortable for an addict new in recovery who's used to isolating.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people, newcomers who come in and stay clean, like it's a way different experience than I had. It's going to be a huge testimony to
Yeah,
like,
100%.
I came in and I stayed clean and I used all these tools and I was still able to stay clean, because that's why I feel bad for him, because meetings was just such a every single day thing for me, like in person, seeing people. And I think that's part of what kept me coming back. So I just like, it amazes me, that people
Absolutely.
are coming around and they're staying clean. And unfortunately, there's other people who have time who aren't jiving with the Zoom meetings
Yeah.
during this pandemic. And so they're not tuning in and they're not calling in and they feel lonely and they feel isolated. And I actually have a home group member. He's like a solid home group member. Every week he would come, he would set up, he would break down. He didn't ask anybody for help. And he was just so humble about the whole thing. And like, since we started doing our home group over Zoom, he just like can't get with it. And I miss him.
Yeah.
He doesn't dial in every Monday night.
And that's tough, it's definitely, I gotta say my own attendance is not like it was with in-person meetings. Like you mentioned your attendance increasing, my attendance to meetings has gone down, like because not only did I move to a new area several months before this pandemic hit, like I mentioned, I had just starting to form a network, starting to feel comfortable in my meeting routine here in this new area, and then boom, Governor Hogan shuts it down and I can't go to meetings. And I'm like, man, I just worked, it took me months to get this like where I am, and like I was gonna keep growing, but now it's like stunning my growth, it feels like. But I don't use that as an excuse not to do meetings. It's just with the podcast, raising my daughter and co-parenting with another child. We have 2 kids here I'm helping to raise, so it's a lot with that, the podcast. And I do hit my home group and another meeting. I do 2 Zoom meetings a week on average, the men's rap and my home group, or my home group and my sponsorship family Zoom meeting do at the same time on the same night. So I kind of like rotating. So I hit 3 different Zoom meetings pretty regularly, and then I check out different ones here and there. So yeah, but there's so many options out there. Why not, right?
Yeah, I mean, do you sit still though? I think that's
the hard part.
Right, because I think that the reason I'm able to get to so many meetings is because I have headphones on and I'm like multitasking in the background.
Okay.
But if you ask me like when I really sit down and just like 100% focus on the meeting, it's probably like 2 of them a week. So it would be the same as if I was going to them in real life. But I mean, yeah. I feel like I have like new material. I have like new sayings that just new stuff that like I can say to myself when I feel like I'm having a hard day.
Yeah, it's almost like we have the world at our fingertips with this. Literally, we can go to a meeting in Australia if we want, and pick up new lingo from different countries or different states, or it's wild. Right. I haven't done any meetings out of the country. However, I did tune into like a convention one day, or it was like a speaker jam, and they had a lady from London who was speaking, and that was pretty cool.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's interesting to see that similar
Brazil, the World Convention one year with my friend, and it was insane when we were like waiting to get tickets to like go into the World Convention. Like everyone that was there pretty much was speaking a different language, and we were all saying like one day at a time in different languages.
Wow.
I mean, it's pretty cool to know that it's like so worldwide.
So you actually went to a convention in Brazil?
Yeah, it was the World Convention. Yep, and we went there. We stayed for 12 days. It was a really long time, and the convention was okay. I think it was different, maybe because it was not in the States. I've heard the States has better conventions. However, like towards the end when we were getting homesick, we found like a local meeting to go to, and the people there, they spoke Spanish, but they just translated everything for us through the whole meeting.
Wow.
Into English. And their meetings were 2 hours long, and they passed, like someone brought you cookies and coffee, and we were just like,
Yeah, that's
this is
different.
the best thing ever.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. It's interesting. That's very interesting. Now, let's see here. I prepared a couple questions. One of the things I was interested in asking you is, how do you balance, right? Now, I know balance is like it's something that we have to constantly work on, but how do you balance your family life versus your personal life and your recovery? Since we're talking about like the meeting attendance and everything, you know, how do you find balance in your life?
Ugh. Um,
Tough question.
so yeah, it's a tough question. I mean, honestly, I'll tell you right now, I've been up since 3:30 this morning
Ooh.
with my son. So I was actually really tired in the middle of the day today, and I was really tired another day this week because he's been having like an off sleep schedule. But nevertheless, I mean, now I've added a job into the mix, so like I'm just going to be tired for a while until I adjust. I just, I always have to, I have to think there has to be an order, like God comes first, then my recovery, then my family, and I'm supposed to come before my family. So it's difficult. I try to do something nice for myself every single day. Usually it's working out. I'm on the phone a lot so I can stay connected with like my friends and my network and my sponsor. My son, when I'm at home in the morning, I pay attention to him. And when I'm at home in the evening after I get home from work, I try to put my phone down and just be with my family. And it's hard, because
of course.
I'm obsessed with Facebook sometimes. And
I think we all get there, we all get obsessive and compulsive, and I think it's our addictive behavior showing in other ways. My girlfriend pointed out to me one time, you're doing too much, and it's because I wasn't focused on any one thing. I was trying to cook dinner and play with my daughter and watch a movie and talk on the phone and like wash my car. Who knows? It could have been any number of things like trying to do at one time. And that's, for me, I take like a realistic approach. But I love what you said about, and not that it's not realistic. I don't know what word I don't know why I use that term. I love what you said about like creating a list and remembering that God comes first, and then your recovery, and then your family, and then whatever comes else after that, whether it's your job. I love that. But for me, what I do right now is I just try to do one thing at a time. And that's hard.
That's so good. Yeah, I love that, what you're saying, because I'm like that too. I try to do too many things, It's just so much to do. I mean, and honestly, I'll just leave my house a mess. I mean, that's I don't like to clean anyway, but like, that's like the last thing that I'll probably like focus on. I mean, at some point during the week, but
get around to it. And that's, really we have to make sacrifices. If we're going to focus on one thing at a time, we're not going to get everything done in one day, regardless. And I find like there's more order and I feel more fulfilled if I focus on one thing at a time, because if I'm trying to do 3 things at once, each one of those 3 things I'm trying to do will suffer in some sort of way.
The energy, right?
Yeah. And then I'll just feel on whole at the end of all 3 of those activities, where if I just do one and only maybe get 2 done in that night, well, I can do that other thing tomorrow. And then tomorrow might come and I realize that wasn't even important. Why was I stressing out over that?
See, this is why we do this kind of stuff, because I just learned something from you.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
That really hits home for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a learning experience. And that's why I say, this podcast has helped me tremendously. And I had no idea that when I started this thing, that I would still be doing it, for one, and for 2, that I would meet so many awesome people in recovery. That just have amazing things to share with me. William V, right? That lives down here. I'm in his area now, so I see him a lot more. I shared,
you're so lucky.
he's awesome, right? So I shared a meeting one day, one night. It was like a 10 p.m. meeting, and he just happened to be there with, well, I shouldn't have broke his anonymity. I didn't drop his last name, but anyways, he was there with another guy, and I shared, and it was a real raw, emotional share, and he was like, something? How he does, he gets real into it. He's like, something? Right. He's like, it's funny that God used a panda bear to teach you a lesson.
That's just like it.
Yeah. I mean, it had me rolling. Like, I was crying until he shared that, and I just started laughing, and it was, I love meeting and just having the interactions, And when William met my girlfriend, he said, "Let me give you a hug," to my girlfriend, and I was like, and he was like, "You know why I'm hugging you, right?" Because you have to deal with him. So,
oh my God, totally.
He's such a good guy, and there's so many. I just use him as an example, as like there's so many awesome people and so many missed connections when I was using, that I have access to now in the program of recovery. I just have to show up for them.
Well, I mean, look at how long you and I both have now. I have 9 years, and you have how many?
2, little over 2.
So you have a little over 2. So it's just like that kind of stuff that William B does is the kind of stuff that keeps us coming back. That's why I love Predecessor so much, and that's my fiance's sponsor. I mean, I love him. Yeah. He's so amazing.
I didn't realize that he sponsored your fiance, which, by the way, I wanted to kind of touch on that. You had your wedding date to get married set up when this pandemic hit, and the pandemic came and it scratched your wedding plans. What has it been like dealing with that and recovery?
Yeah. I mean, we put it on pause. So we were going to have a really big wedding. I wanted like the bells and the whistles. And then we realized we were going to be spending all this money on this day, and it kind of didn't make any sense to me. And, he's supportive of me, and I was like, it's just about us getting married. So we decided to have a smaller wedding. I got my wedding dress, which I'm really excited about. And then we were going to start doing all the other stuff. Like, I had an appointment to have the bridesmaids come and pick out their dresses, and it had to be canceled. Even you, we're going to be the DJ. Yeah. It's been put on hold. Like, everything has just been put on hold. And so hopefully everything goes back to normal, and we'll still be able to have a small wedding on September 5th. But even if it doesn't go back to normal, I mean, we're still just going to get married in the backyard. We're just kind of letting it happen organically.
There you go. I like it. Yeah. Would you mind showing the viewers your ring?
Yeah. Look at that bad boy.
Man, that's awesome. Congratulations. So, being a wedding DJ, I have to ask, because I always ask the brides this. How did Jamie propose?
Oh my gosh. So, actually, a girlfriend of ours, so a couple that we're friends with, the girl asked me if I wanted to go hiking. So I didn't even think about how she's like not a hiker at all. So we go and eat before we go hiking, and then we go for this hike, and we're like walking down to this waterfront, and I see like Carlos, Carlos.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I think it's him from the back, but I'm like, maybe not.
Yeah, that's weird. I'm sure you're like, what's Carlos doing here?
Well, and it was right before like my home group at the time. It was on a Saturday. It was right down the street, and I was thinking he just must be here taking pictures if that's him, because that's normal for him to like go take, scenery pictures and stuff. And then maybe he's coming by the home group. So I like walk down the hill. And then all of a sudden, he starts flashing his camera, and here comes Jamie jumping out from behind a tree. And he gets down on one knee, and I'm like, what are you doing here?
So that's funny. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I
So
had no idea.
yeah, I was just gonna say you had no idea, man. That's beautiful. That's when like you're in the moment. If you would have known it was coming, things would have been different. But it sounds like a very genuinely surprised moment where you're just excited and you're in the moment. So that's cool. And it's awesome that Carlos was there to capture it. I saw the pictures. So very cool.
It was really sweet. Jamie did a good job. And he also brought me an outfit for the photo shoot that I would have never picked. So I had to be very humble and just like
hey, that's cool.
Dress, throw my hair up, and just, it's all part of what recovery's taught me, just like being in the moment.
Sure. Absolutely.
So, yeah, it was a great experience, good memory.
Yeah. That is cool, and I appreciate you sharing that. So, kind of just going back to the original question I had about, your wedding being postponed, the feelings that arose at the initial setback when you couldn't meet the bridesmaids for dresses and you realized that you weren't going to be able to do this. What was that like?
Honestly, I was okay with it. The reason is that, so I'm like a really flashy person, perfectionist. And so for me to even not want the bells and whistles and to have something smaller, to just want it to be really intimate and just about me and Jamie getting married and saying our vows to each other and stuff, I kind of already, that initial shock had worn off for me, and especially because I had made the decision. So like when we couldn't have the appointment, it just kind of, it wasn't like a really big deal to me. I think if anything, I was very grateful because I do know so many brides during this time who have paid full price for venues, DJs, caterers, photographers, all of this stuff, sent out their wedding invitations, had people RSVP, and then, it gives me goosebumps just to have to, like, postpone their wedding, and who knows if they lost money or... not even that, but when you think you're going to get married on a certain date and that date is special to you, it's just like, it's got to be heartbreaking. So if anything, I think that I was just grateful that we hadn't really decided to have the really big wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to save a ton of money, and this isn't about one day, it's about the rest of your lives together. So if you can invest that money into something that is more sustainable long term, then you're better off. And that's what I've learned about being in the wedding industry. So that's awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that you were able to get through that without too many hard feelings, and that, of course, I'm assuming Jamie's like on the same page with you and you guys are just moving forward, and that's great. So, because I know in recovery, like going through those pivotal moments or thinking you're about to go through one of those like pivotal moments of your life, and then it's just like put a halt on, but there's blessings in the and this time that we're living in right now. For instance, the job you got in the middle of a pandemic, how did that happen, right? So there's different things, and you've got a beautiful little boy. How old is your son now?
So Cruz is 20 months old, so he'll be 2 on June 28th.
Okay.
Oh, no, wait. So he's 22 months old. God. He's 22 months old, He's getting so tall.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. So he... 22 months. Wow. Okay. He's just So
we're gonna have to start making more babies soon.
Yeah, it's definitely the recovery community has certainly been populated with a ton of babies over the past couple years, at least in our area, and myself have been one of those blessed few that have had a child come out of that. And I love my daughter to death, and it's just an amazing experience being a father in recovery. I never thought that I would get clean, first of all, and then I never thought I'd be a father. To have both of those things is like miraculous. I
think it's cool because we get to use recovery like our kids don't have to see us use just for today. Hopefully never, right?
Right.
And then like for us, I think things that happened in our childhood or ways that we were raised, like some stuff we want to take with us, some stuff we just want to leave and we want to break the cycle. So I think it's cool because as a mom, you know, a recovery has given me awareness. Like I can be aware of when I'm on my phone on social media and I should put it down and pay attention to my kid, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Or like when I shouldn't be screaming at him as much as I should and
Yeah.
maybe just try to like figure out what he needs or what he wants. So
yeah, it's about being present, being present in the moment for our children. So it's a huge blessing. This is a kind of like I wasn't sure if this question was taboo. I don't want any of the viewers or even you to take this the wrong way. It's not sexist in any stretch of the means, but the question is this: do you think that recovery is different for men and women?
I think that no. No. I mean, the program is the program, right? So like recovery looks the same on everyone. Relapse looks the same on everyone. So I don't think that recovery is different, but I think that there's a reason why the men stick with the men and the women stick with the women, because men deal with different personal issues, right, that they'll use their recovery tools for, and women deal with different personal issues that women deal with that they'll use the same recovery tools for, but you can't relate all the time to the opposite sex because, you know, there's just different things. Like, for example, you know, some men were raised not to cry, you know, like that's a common thing.
That's such a big one. Oh my gosh.
Yes, right.
Such a big thing to address in recovery. It was addressed early on for me in my recovery. Like, hey, it's okay to show your emotions, dude. Let go of that shit. Like, and I remember people like shaking it, trying to shake it out of me, you know, like just let go. Because until I let go of some stuff, I'm not gonna allow a power greater than myself in, you know. So like I had to just let go and let God, as they say.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a great answer. I wasn't sure what kind of response I would get. I just, you know, it was an interesting question to bring to the table, you know. And since you're only the second female that I've had on the podcast, I figured why not ask it, you know. So, and I'm excited for more female guests to come on the podcast. I mentioned that I have another female coming on in about 2 weeks. Her name is Michelle. I got another. Very cool. I'm glad because, to be quite honest, I don't know her at all. You know,
she's amazing. Yeah.
She had reached out to me privately in a messenger on Facebook, and you know, asked me, why don't I have more females on the podcast? Is this a men's podcast? Should I not be watching? And I was like, no, by all means, watch and come on and talk to me. Like, I'd be more than happy to have you. Oh, and by the way, Emilee is going to be on this upcoming week. And so she was excited to hear that. And, you know, I'm excited to like be able to open up the variety of people that I can talk to, being this, you know, having this outlet of the video calls. You know, because to be quite honest, like, you probably live about almost 50 minutes, an hour away, and like, it might not have been convenient for you to come do this in person. You're feeling low, depressed, or in your head. What is the most helpful thing for you?
I mean, there's a lot of tools that I use. I mean, prayer is a really big one for me. But I mean, really, I don't know what it is. Like every sponsor I've ever had, it's just something about my sponsor, you know, that I call them and they say the right thing. You know, it's like music to my ears, poetry. Sure. Yeah. And I'm like, you know,
there it was, right? Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
So my sponsors, you know, sponsorship is definitely a big tool for me. To use all the time, and like prayer, because sometimes my sponsor's not available, my friends aren't available, and you know, sometimes I think one of the big things I learned too about feeling low is like it's okay to just feel the way I'm feeling. You know, and one of the steps it asks like, what's the one feeling that you hate feeling the most, and mine is sadness. So it's like when I feel sad, I don't like it. So I'm always like judging myself for feeling sad and trying to change it, you know? So I had to learn to just allow myself to be where I am. Like, it's okay if I'm sad, and it'll pass. Like, this too shall pass.
Yeah, that's a really important thing you bring up. It's okay to feel low. It's okay to feel depressed and down.
Right.
But it's okay to reach out too. It's okay to let someone know you're hurting. And I do want to put this out there, and excuse me for being on my phone, but if anybody's struggling, feel free to reach out to the A.live hotline, and hopefully I can get you some resources. That number is 410-692-8230. And I'll put it in the description below the video after we go live here. Again, that number is 410-692-8230. By the way, that's not my personal number, but you can reach me there. And hopefully we can get you some resources that you may need, whether that's getting into rehab or you just need somebody to talk to. I'm more than happy to do that. So reach out, like, especially in this time of uncertainty. There's got to be a lot of struggle and a lot of low and depressed feeling people. I know I've experienced it myself, and it's okay. It's okay. So Don't be a stranger when you're in danger. I don't know. I just came up with that. So,
I love it.
But yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you do or want to share with the world today while you have the platform? The floor is all yours, Emilee.
Yeah, I mean, don't use no matter what during this pandemic. I can't wait to get back to meetings and like hug you or hug people and get a hug. Mm-hmm. And just like use this time to your advantage, you know. When the pandemic's over, we're all going to be busy again. So like for me, you know, I try to like write on a little bit of step work every single week, which is something I definitely wasn't doing before. I'm on my first step. I'm on my first step for the second time around. Sorry, I didn't know if I said that right. And, you know, like I really wasn't writing on it before. So it's really helped me that I've been able to slow down. Just trying to like spend more time with God, like use this time to my advantage, just dial into some meetings and like listen, you know, and not use. And luckily for me, like it's been arrested. So if you're new, like just keep coming back. So when I got clean, I wanted to use for the first 9 months that I was clean, and I wanted to use every single day. And the only reason I didn't is because I was so scared of dying. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I would hear people sharing meetings like, I don't have the desire to use. I lost the desire to use. And I wasn't losing the desire to use. And I was thinking to myself, it's never going to happen for me. And I read some of the 12-step fellowship literature that I'm in. And there was this story in the back of the book. And it was this woman, and she shared in her story about how it was 2 years into her recovery that she woke up and didn't think about using for the first time, you know, and like that was like gave me so much hope, like, oh my God, I'm going to lose the desire to use. And so I'm grateful that my disease has been arrested and that I don't have the desire to use today. So like just keep coming back, you know, use this time to your advantage, stick and stay no matter what. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Like life beyond our wildest dreams, right?
Absolutely. I think you just summed it all up in like a matter of 2 minutes. Just keep coming back. It's not worth using over. Reach out. You know, it's okay. You really touched on a lot of excellent stuff here today. So I appreciate you coming on, Emilee. I did really just real quickly just wanted to touch on the step work a little bit because it's so important. We're in a step. We're in a... Oh my gosh, I just had a brain fart. Fellowship. Yes, that's the term I was looking for. Thank you. We're in a 12-step fellowship. It would be silly of us not to do steps. So It would be silly of us not to talk about steps. What has your step working experience been like? Have you been through all 12 steps?
Yeah, I've been through all 12.
And you're back on number 2, did you say?
No, I'm back on number 1.
Oh, okay. Okay, awesome.
And it's showing up all in my life. That's how it works.
Yeah, we're powerless, right?
So I've been through the 12 steps. Yeah, I mean, it's insanity to be in a 12-step fellowship and not work the steps. You know, it's what I have like rules, not rules, because that's like so stern and harsh. I have like this guide, like this roadmap to live by. And I feel really blessed for that because, you know, normal people, whatever, like, what do they do? Like, I don't know. So,
Yeah, it's interesting to think that way. I guess they
right.
just live and let live. I don't know. It's
I don't know either.
and honestly, we don't have to know. It's not for us to
Nope.
figure out. We have our own journey and our own path, and like we can do that, and normal people can do what they do and have a drink on every other month or whatever, however they do that. I don't know how it's possible. It's not me.
No, me either.
And that's just the other thing too. You know, everyone has their own experience. So only you know if you're an addict, right? Only you can make that decision for yourself. So if you know somebody who's struggling, you know, please don't like point the finger and say,
Right.
you know, you need to get help or you have a problem. Like, I'm sure they know if they have a problem. I'm sure they know it. So let them live their process and just be there for them. You know, that's what helped me. You know, my family was there for me, even though I robbed them, I lied to them, all the nasty and negative things that I've done, but yet they just loved me unconditionally, and that's what I needed. That's what I needed. So
Yeah.
it worked for me. So hopefully it can work for you too. And it can work, and it works if you work it. And I think that's about all the time we have for the evening. It's been a pleasure once again, ladies and gentlemen, Emilee B. And tune in on, what is it? Not this Sunday, but next Sunday. Brian H. will be joining me live on the A.live Podcast for episode 9. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for tonight. Thanks for tuning in.
Subscribe now at A.live Panda on YouTube.